Last year I booked a one-way flight and vanished for 6 months and left my old life behind. I grew up in a small town in the Midwest. I'm talking population less than 3,000 people in this town. Tiny. And when I say small, I mean the kind of small where a trip to the grocery store turns into an hour-long event. And I was just there last December. I remember bumping into my first grade teacher, my mom's coworker, my second cousin, and my ex-best friend. All in one trip. That's how small this town is. Everybody knows everyone. Everyone knows your business, where you work, who you're dating, what you're doing with your life, and if they don't know, they're gonna ask. Or they're just gonna assume, to be honest. And somehow the whole town finds out anyway, within days. And for a long time, that felt like comfort, it felt like safety, and I knew where I belonged. And I knew what my life was gonna look like because I could see it all around me and everybody that was around me. So people I went to high school with were getting engaged, buying houses 3 streets over from their parents, posting pregnancy announcements. The path was clearly laid out for me. I had the job, a pretty stable one for a young teenage girl. I had the relationship, the apartment, the friend group, the 5-year plan. From the outside, my life looked like it was working. Like I had figured something out that other people were still looking for. And I had my plan set out for me. That's what people talked about. About me and my sisters, we had our plan set out for us. And that's what I led them to believe. But somewhere along the way, I stopped recognizing myself. I would wake up and go through the motions every single day. Smile at the right times, say the right things, show up where I was supposed to show up, and then I would come home and feel absolutely nothing. Not sad, not happy, just empty. And then I slowly started to realize through all of this that my life was something I was just surviving. I was not living anymore. Like I was playing a character in life I didn't remember auditioning for. Like I was wearing a mask, a fake face. And I would sit in my car in the driveway and not want to go inside. And I'd scroll through my photos of my life and feel like I was looking at a freaking stranger. I would lay awake at 2 a.m. and think, is this really it? Is this what I worked so hard for? Is this what the rest of my life is gonna look like? And then the worst part was that I could not talk to anybody about it. Like, seriously, no one. Because from the outside, I had no reason to feel this way, because on paper I had everything. So what was wrong with me? I remember the exact moment I knew I had to leave. Like I was laying on my bed on a random Wednesday night. I was looking up at the ceiling, mentally exhausted from my day at work scanning groceries. I remembered all of these people I had known my whole entire life, people that I love, people who love me, and I felt more alone than I've ever felt in my life. I thought if I stay here, I'll disappear. Not physically, but the version of me that still has dreams. The version of me that believes that there's something more to this life. And that version of myself was dying. She was dying slowly and quietly. And nobody could see it but me. So that night I went home, I opened my laptop, and I booked a one-way flight to a country I had never been before. And I did not tell anyone at all. I didn't ask for permission. I didn't make a plan. I just left. I left everything. Back then, I was trained to ask my parents for everything, still as an adult in my parents' home. But I didn't ask. I just left because I decided I'm done asking for permission. The morning I left, I remember staring at my suitcase thinking what the heck am I doing? I was going crazy on the inside, and I've never felt this alone. The farthest I've been alone, traveling, was maybe a road trip 2 hours away. And now I was about to fly across the whole entire world to a place where I didn't even speak the language. And I didn't even know a single person, and I absolutely had no plan. None. My hands were shaking the entire Uber ride to the airport, and I kept checking my phone, waiting for someone to text me and say, don't go. Or waiting for someone to text me saying, Gloria, where are you? So I'd have an excuse to turn around and completely scratch the plan and act like I never went. I walked through security with this weird daze when I went through. My body was moving, but my brain had not caught up yet. And I sat at the gate and genuinely almost did not board. And I kept thinking to myself, I can still go home and I can still pretend that this was just like a crazy idea, and I almost did. But then they called my boarding group, and some power or grit inside of me, maybe a calling inside of me, got me to stand up and walk towards the gate. So I stood up and I went, and I walked down that tunnel to the plane, and I never looked back. Not because I didn't want to go, but because if I looked back, I wouldn't be able to keep going. I found my seat, I found the window, I put in my headphones, and as the plane took off, I watched everything I knew get smaller and smaller through that tiny window. And then I cried. Not because I was sad, but because for the first time, I didn't even know how long I actually felt something real. I landed and immediately thought, what did I just do? The heat hit me the second I stepped off the plane, and everything was loud and bright and completely overwhelming. I was like in panic mode, I remember. There were signs I could not read, languages I could not comprehend, and people speaking in a different language around me that overwhelmed me because I had no idea what they're even saying. I had no idea where I was going and what was going on. And it was kind of scary to me. And I found a taxi and showed the driver my phone with the address of this place I booked like at 2 a.m. the night before. He nodded to me when I approached him, and we drove through streets that looked like nothing I've ever seen before. And I just sat in the back seat, watching this whole new world go by, thinking like, nobody knows where I am right now. Nobody. No one from home knows I'm here. I could literally disappear, and it would take days for anybody to figure it out. And that should have been scary, but honestly, it was super, super thrilling. Something in me was like being shaken awake. And it felt like for the first time in months, I could actually breathe. So I got to my room, I dropped my bag, sat on this tiny freaking bed, and just sat there. No plan, no itinerary, no one expecting me anywhere. Just me in 6 months of upcoming adventure in this new country ahead of me. I had no idea what I was doing, and for the first time, that felt completely okay. So here's the part that doesn't make it on the Instagram posts. The first few weeks were super, super rough. Like, I thought I was going to land in this new country and immediately become this free, enlightened main character version of myself. And that's what all of the travel content makes it look like, right? Girl books flight, girl finds herself, and girl lives her best life. That's how it goes, right? Yeah, no, that's not what happened. What actually happened was that I ate alone every single night for like 3 weeks straight, and not a cute treating myself way, and more so of a don't make eye contact with me way out in public. So I wandered around and I had no idea where I was going. I got lost constantly, and I would take breaks at 7-Eleven to just get my reins together, buy some food, and ask around to figure out like where are the places and where the heck am I even going. And I got to a point where I was missing home, and I missed everybody because it was familiar and it was what I was used to. And I had this loneliness creeping up inside of me that I did not expect. And I kept asking myself, why the heck did I do this? Because here's the thing, I thought I knew what lonely felt like. I was lonely back home, surrounded by people who knew me. But this was a different kind of lonely. This was sitting in a room where no one in the entire country knows your name. No one's checking on you, and no one's wondering where you are. There were nights I laid in bed and literally asked myself, like, why did I do this? What on earth was I thinking? I had a good life, and I had people who loved me, and I just left. And I thought about booking a flight home so many times, and I had the airline website pulled up on my phone more than once. But something kept me there. I don't know what it was, maybe stubbornness, maybe hope, maybe just the fact that I'd already come this far, and going back felt like giving up on myself and on my dreams. I'm not sure. I don't know when exactly things shifted. There wasn't like a movie moment where like music swelled and suddenly everything figured out itself. It was more like a slow thaw. I remember this one morning, maybe on month 2. I woke up early, the sun was just coming up, and instead of laying in bed dreading another day of not knowing what I was gonna do, I just got up, made some matcha, some coffee, walked outside, and watched the sunrise. And I realized I wasn't thinking about home. I wasn't thinking about what I was supposed to be doing. I wasn't performing for anyone or trying to be anyone. I was just there, present, existing. And it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt quiet, but like a good quiet, like the kind of quiet where you can finally hear yourself think. And I started noticing things, small things, like the way that the light looked in the morning, the sound of a city waking up, the taste of food I've never tried before, and the feeling of walking somewhere with absolutely nowhere to be. And it was thrilling, and it was lively. I started writing again, just like random stuff in my notes app at first, then actual journal entries and things I never said out loud anymore, things I didn't even know I was feeling until I wrote them down. I was turning my feelings into thoughts, and I felt free for the first time. The biggest thing that surprised me was that I started talking to strangers, and I started traveling more to tourist places, and I talked to people who taught me things that I'm never gonna forget. And somewhere in all of this, I found something I didn't even know I'd lost. My own voice. Not the voice that says what people want me to hear. Not the voice that performs and people pleases and keeps everyone comfortable. My actual voice. The one I had been drowning out for years with busyness and noise and other people's expectations. I was still there, quieter than I remembered, but still there. And once I heard it again, I couldn't unhear it. So around month 4, something else changed. I stopped feeling like I was running away from my old life, and I started feeling like I was running towards something new. I can't explain what it is exactly, but there was this moment where I was walking down this random street in a city I'd never been to, surrounded by people I didn't know, completely alone. And I felt more like myself than I had in freaking years. Not because I'd figured everything out, I definitely had not, but because I finally stopped trying to be someone I was not. I stopped apologizing for wanting more, for feeling like the life I was supposed to want wasn't enough, for being the kind of person who needed to leave everything behind just to find herself. And I stopped feeling broken for not being happy with what everybody else seemed happy with. Because maybe I'm not broken. Maybe I'm just different. And maybe different isn't something that needs to be fixed. I started making choices based on what I actually wanted, not what made sense, not what looked good, and not what made everybody else comfortable. Just what felt right to me, the missing piece of my puzzle. And for the first time in my life, that felt like enough. Coming home was weird after a while. Like, really, really, really weird. I was terrified that my old self, numb and empty, would start to creep in. I was terrified at the airport. Everything looked exactly the same streets, the same stores, the same people asking me the same questions, but I was not the same. And that's hard to explain to people who watched you leave and expected you to come back the same person. Some people didn't even get it. Some friendships didn't survive. Some parts of my old life just didn't fit anymore after this. And I had to be okay with letting them go. But here's what I gained. I stopped being scared of being alone. I spent 6 months with nobody but myself, and I survived. More than survived. I actually started to like who I was when nobody was watching. When I stopped performing for everybody, I stopped needing everyone to understand my choices because I finally understood them myself. I stopped living for the 5-year plan and started living for right now. Because if those 6 months taught me anything, it's that you can't plan your way to happiness. You have to feel your way there. And I stopped abandoning myself. That's the biggest thing. For years, I was leaving little pieces of myself behind every time I said yes when I meant no. Every time I showed up for everyone else and forgot to show up for me, every time I chose comfort over truth, I lost a piece of myself in that. I was disappearing long before I ever booked that flight. The trip didn't even help me find myself. It helped me stop losing myself. And if you're watching this and something in you is like, that's me, I feel that stuck and I feel like I'm living someone else's life. I'm not gonna tell you to book a flight and disappear for 6 months. That's not realistic for everyone, and honestly, it's not even the point. The point is, listen to that voice, the quiet one underneath all of that noise, the one that's been trying to tell you that something is off. It's not wrong, it's not dramatic, it's not asking for too much, it's not being ungrateful, it's asking you to come home to yourself. You don't have to have it all figured out, and I definitely do not. I'm still growing and I'm still figuring out who I am and what I want in life, but I'm doing it as me now, not as the version of me everyone else is comfortable with. And that makes all of the difference. So wherever you are, whatever you're feeling, whatever impossible thing you're scared to do, just know that the life that you're craving is on the other side of the choices you're scared to make, and you're braver than you think. I promise. Just book the spontaneous flight, get out there, and find your calling.